Hey, good evening, everybody. Dirk Delirium here on Facebook, Dirk Delirium, also Delirium Dirk. Just a couple things, real quick. Appreciate you joining us. We're going to do step six tonight, and we're going to actually have to shoot step six in two parts. And this is on our YouTube channel called 12 Steps to Recovery Live, capital Live. We also have our other YouTube channel. Love to have you take a look there. There's a lot of other stuff out there, and that's called Scared Sober Dash Delirium Tremens. Delirium Tremens, not tremors. And you'll see a bunch of me pop up. All you have to do is pick one of them and hit the little red subscribe tab. And if you haven't subscribed on this channel yet, please just hit that tab and that'll log in. Last but not least, we also have a really cool Facebook page, group page. If you go to your groups and search Alcoholics / Addicts all together, Alcoholics, Addicts, Living Recovery. And it's capital Living, and recovery has about 3 exclamation marks. So again, Alcoholics, Addicts, Living Recovery. We'd love to have you join us there too. And there's a lot of people that post out on that. It's a good pick-me-up throughout the day. So let's get into the gist of it. Once again, housekeeping, I am not the face of AA, NA, CAHA, or NEA, nor do I try to be. I am simply a face of recovery, and I am living proof that it truly does work. The book that I choose to practice, and the program, one of many that I do practice, comes out of this blue one. It kind of set the pace for all the others, so that's what I work with my sponsor. And once again, I work these steps fearlessly and thoroughly. The key is thoroughly, and step six is no exception. When I worked step six, I probably spent more time on this than I did on step 4 and 5. And yet it's one of the small or shortest steps in the book. So at least out of the 12 steps, but that doesn't mean that the work in there has to be short. It's actually, there's a lot to be taken in. So what is step 6? Verbatim, step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. All right, what's a defect of character? An imperfection, a character defect, character defect, imperfection of character are one and the same. It's the things that I do that make me unapproachable, inaccessible, self-absorbed, arrogant, egotistical, and all the above. Those are very normal qualities for a practicing alcoholic or an addict like myself. When I was using, I was all those things. I was terrible. I was awful. You did not want to be around me, and that is an understatement. There are many thousands of people that would back that statement up. So, first of all, I'd like to say we were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. That is God of my understanding. That is my own conception of God. This is not a religious program at all. States right in the intro to number 2, verbatim, this is not a religious program. So anybody that gets caught up in that is somebody that I'm probably not going to have a lengthy conversation with, because there are plenty of people that do not believe in the God of the Bible or the heavens that can, and will continue to get sober through the programs of recovery. It is not a prerequisite. And we don't discriminate those that do. So we just don't have any dog in that fight. And you can't. Otherwise you get caught up in the bullshit, and that means you don't want to complete the steps and you're looking for an excuse. At least that's how it always was with me. And believe me, I used all of them. So, ready to have God remove all these defects of character. So here are the questions that I was asked. We're going to go through this first 7 questions in this first half. And the first question is, what are my fears about doing step 6? What are my fears about that? Question number 2 is, what does it mean that a higher power can remove these defects? What does that exactly mean? You know, I need to understand that before I can ask for something to happen. If I don't know what it is, it's kind of like trying to teach algebra when I haven't learned to add. What is my responsibility? Question 3, what is my responsibility in that? Is it just going to happen? No, of course not. There's action involved. So what do I have to do about that? 4, do I believe I can change? Do I believe in my heart that I can change? And second part of that question, have I changed thus far? Has there been results? Question 5, are some of my character defects enjoyable? Do I find pleasure in some of them that I don't want to give up? Legitimate question. Question 6 is, are there any defects I believe cannot be removed? And then the second part of that question is, am I willing to have all of them removed? And third part, why? Seventh question I had to ask myself was to make a list of each of my character defects and a brief description. All right, there's a few more questions, but we're going to end it on that note with the first 7 questions, and we'll do part 2 to step 6 tomorrow. So look for that. So we're going to start right at the beginning. What are my fears about doing step 6? Honestly, and this is my answer when I worked these steps thoroughly and fearlessly with my sponsor the first time, my answers have not changed, and I've worked them many times since. What are my fears about doing step 6? Honestly, I have no fears whatsoever. I can say this for 2 reasons. First, my higher power, my God of my understanding, has taken excellent care of me thus far. I'm not dead, and I tried everything to be, and I'm still here. So I believe he's taken pretty damn good care of me so far. And there's no doubt that he will continue to do so. Second, I fully accept my shortcomings, or character defects, if you will, as they are one and the same. I accept them, I know what they are, and therefore I do not have any fear about tackling this step. Question 2. What does it mean that a higher power can remove them? What exactly does that mean? I believe that this is dependent first on the belief and faith in a higher power. I don't care what your conception of God is, I just know I'm not it. So I have to have a belief and a faith that that higher power can remove these, as it's done for millions of others. And I do believe in my God of my understanding, and I know for certain that all things are possible through that God. I understand that all of my character defects will not be removed in the same sense that my obsession to drink was lifted. My obsession to drink was lifted, gone. One moment it was, one moment it wasn't. Character defects, not quite the same. The obsession has been removed, gone by the grace of my God and my understanding. Character defects, on the other hand, can and will crop up daily. Why? I'm human. So I believe and interpret step 6 as having the best possible attitude that I can make in what will be a lifelong and lifetime job. I need to be and am content with patient improvement. Entirely ready is nothing more than a degree of both willingness and readiness. No matter how much progress we have made or I have made, my desires, personal, will always come up which oppose the grace or direction of my God and my understanding. That's a fact. So, in a sense, I need to avoid excess, which results in destructive behavior. In reference to the 7 deadly sins, if you will, gluttony, envy, ego, pride. All 7 of them apply. Sloth. I can't accept the entire implication of step 6 as it reads, and that is perfection. I can't personally believe that they're all going to just be poof, gone, because that's impossible. Simply this, and by the way, perfection is a perfect being. If I was perfect, I'd be my own higher power. And I tried that for decades, and look where it got me. So simply this, I make a beginning, and I keep on trying. All right, so question 3, what is my responsibility in that? Again, 2 parts. No, actually 3. The first is being able to acknowledge my character defects and understand just what they even are. If I don't know what they are, how can I work to correct them? Being aware is imperative prior to change. The second is the willingness to both address them and understand how they impact my life. This is the first part of the beginning I mentioned above. This is done by working this step from the beginning. Last, or third, that is followed by taking the action required to change or work on that particular defect or even a portion of it. The elephant wasn't eaten all at once, it was eaten one bite at a time. Again, this is a daily practice which often presents itself situation by situation. My character defects are what have always controlled my reaction in the past, that knee-jerk reaction. Today, I have to pause when agitated and use step 6 prior to that knee-jerk reaction. So prior to telling you exactly what I think is right, which is never right, I have to pause, think it through, consider what I'm trying to do with my life, and there's a real good chance a different answer will come out, and always a better one. And I believe that because that's proved true, and until I'm proven wrong to myself, that's been a blessing. Huge blessing. Okay, number 4, do I believe I can change? And have I changed thus far in my journey? Yes. Not only do I believe I can change, I believe anyone can change. This belief is supported by the fact that I personally have changed tremendously. That is not ego talking, it's just a fact. If you knew me when I was using and you knew me today, you would not know who you were speaking to. You would not even recognize me. And that's an absolute fact. It's just a fact. And I am 100% convinced that these changes would never be possible without my belief and my dependence on my God of my understanding, as I'm told, as I'm willing to go to any measure to get it, as I'm willing to believe I'm not God. What has taken place within me personally is nothing short of a wholesale miracle, and that's the fucking truth. Absolute truth. Question 5. Are some of my character defects enjoyable? Do they give me pleasure? Absolutely, of course. As a matter of fact, out of the 20 character defects that I've identified, and only 20 that I've identified, there's a degree of pleasure and or safety that I derive in each and every one of them. So that's when I have to check my motives. And we'll get to those 20 character defects. Question 6. Are there any defects I believe cannot be removed? Second part of that question, am I willing to have all of them removed? And why? All right, this is a tricky question for me when taken as it reads. Because I believe this step is a suggestion and change in attitude that I make in what is in fact a lifelong job, as I stated, patient improvement must be practiced in each of my character defects, but they will always be there if I let them. They will always be there. So being entirely ready, again, just to me, this is my point of view only, being entirely ready, again, to me, means being willing to address portions or all of each defect as it arises. For example, fear, cowardice is not something that my God, of my understanding, would want to entirely remove. A degree of fear is healthy as it reinforces caution and to think things through. Being completely fearless would then play directly into impatience, which is another one of mine. Perfectionism, intolerance, another. Self-importance and self-justification, 2 more. Those would all have play into that. Now, fear, there is a healthy fear. There's a healthy fear that if I go stand on the interstate in front of an 18-wheeler, I'm going to get hit and probably die. So I'm not going to do it. I don't want that removed. But at the same time, I want fear of being able to speak my mind and stand up for what's right and wrong. I definitely will embrace that. Those right there are 4 more of my character defects. Yet even specifically with the above 4 examples, each one again possesses a certain degree of positive when used in a healthy manner. Impatience, for example, prevents me from sliding into procrastination. Yet another of my character defects. Perfectionism and intolerance means I'll avoid false pride, phoniness, denial. Another one of my character defects, 3-part. Self-importance, when used properly, will work against insincerity and negative thinking. 2 more of my character defects. Man, you're going to know all 20 before we get to them. Self-justification can work directly against 2 more of my character defects, which are self-condemnation and guilt, and fear and cowardice. So to me, they can almost all tie together when I look at them for what they really are. And what they really are is me. It's my makeup. So once again, I make a beginning and keep on trying. And most importantly, apply step 6 on a situation by situation basis and practicality, and use it to how I process and react to each one of those situations. All right, question 7. Make a list of each of my character defects or shortcomings. They're one and the same. Bill W., one of the authors of one of these awesome recovery books, the one I follow, was actually asked one time what the difference was, and he said verbiage. So character defects or shortcomings, make a list of each of mine and a brief description of it. So as I said, I'm going to list 20 of them. Okay, number 1, character defects for Dirk. Resentment and anger. What is it? Definition: a persistent feeling of ill will and suppressed anger caused by a sense of injustice, insult, injury, offense, or wrongdoing. Anger, then, is a strong feeling of displeasure or hostility. And I'm guilty of suffering from all the above. When I'm aware of it, I can do something about it. Number 2, fear or cowardice. Agitation, alarm, anxiety, or dismay in anticipation of or in the presence of danger, pain, or disaster. Negative imagination, dread, apprehension, those are all fear for me, and I can plug them in anywhere in my life. Cowardice, then, is someone who is not noble or brave in character, action, or purpose. And I don't want to be that person today. I want to be brave in character, action, and purpose, because that sets the example to be able to help others and indirectly help myself. So again, it's being aware of it on a situation by situation basis. Number 3, self-pity. Anybody else out there? Oh, you mean I'm not alone? Self-pity is an unrestrained or excessive dwelling on one's own sorrows or misfortunes. I wish I wouldn't have done that. Well, guess what? That's been done. Time to move forward. So, and I can find myself, in active addiction, I lived in the past, and it was a very negative place to be. Number 4, self-justification. This is the act or instance of making excuses for oneself as it relates to decisions or actions. Self-justification. I did this because I wanted to, because I'm going to gain something. And again, that's definitely a character defect I suffer from. Number 5, self-importance, egotism. This is an exaggerated sense of self-right or self-importance. Conceit, considering myself especially as a distinctive from the world and of other people. I'm different. No, I'm not. And limited in attitude towards my own interests in mind. Preoccupation with self-interest. I want what I want because I'm going to gain from it. Fuck everybody else. And if that's not a character defect that we all suffer from, I don't know what is. Number 6, self-condemnation, guilt. That is judgment, evaluation, or negative assessment of oneself. The conclusion that I have to be punished for my past deeds. Guilt is nothing more than anger directed at myself, and I am very good at being angry at myself when I allow myself to. Number 7, lying, evasiveness, dishonesty. They're all one and the same. Uh, present a false impression when I present a false impression, or to be deceptive. I do this to escape from, get away from, get around, or elude the truth. So, dishonest is to behave or prone to behave in an untrustworthy or fraudulent way. And I do not wish to be that today. Number 8, impatience. Are we almost done? Impatience. To be restless in desire or expectation. And I wrote, I want what I want now, capitalized. Hate. Hate. This is a strong word. To feel an intense or passionate dislike for someone, intense hostility and aversion, usually deriving from fear, anger, or a sense of injury. Someone did something to me. Extreme dislike, disgust, antipathy, or loathing. All that is hate, and hate is a bad place to be. 10, false pride, phoniness, denial. This is an exaggeratedly high or pretentiousness of oneself, my abilities, or my circumstances. This is not based on real achievement or success, but a delusion of that achievement or success. And that is false pride, phoniness, and denial. Denial is a defense mechanism in which confrontation with a personal problem or with reality is avoided by refusing to accept the existence, truth, or validity of that problem or reality. And I was very good at that. And then I would, as the book states, the one I read, at a time we would not be able to differentiate the true from the false. In other words, I believed my own bullshit. And as an alcoholic and an addict, bad place to be. Number 11, jealousy. Whew. Resentful or painfully desirous of another's advantages or situation, fearful of the loss of position or affection, basically fear and anger. Definitely fear and anger. Anger that I don't have and fear that I won't get what you have or they have, or fear that someone or something will take away what I have. And that is jealousy, the root of all. 12, envy. To be jealous of another. A feeling of discontent and resentment aroused by thinking of another's desirable possessions or qualities, and with a strong desire to have them for myself. I wish I had what they have. Laziness, number 13. The quality of being unable to work for or use energy to gain what I need. I want it handed to me. Disinclination to activity or exertion despite having the ability to do so. I have every ability in the world to do that, but I'm going to lay my ass on the couch and wait for it to be handed to me. That's lazy. That's a bad character defect, and most definitely perpetuated when using. 14, procrastination. Delayed needlessly or putting off doing something, especially out of habitual carelessness or laziness. I'm habitually careless or lazy. I'll get to it later, and later never comes. And procrastination is terrible. Insincerity. Dishonest, phony, or not what one claims to be. Not expressing genuine feelings. I would use that as a defense mechanism when I would say what you want to hear, and I knew it. And I knew what you wanted, and you didn't. That was a manipulative character, as most of us can relate to as alcoholics and addicts. 16, negative thinking. A thought process where people tend, myself especially, to find the worst in everything, or reduce their expectations by focusing on the worst case scenario. Negativity feeds off negativity. People with this character defect often attract people with the similar character defects. They always say misery loves company. There it is. And I don't want to be part of that company today. I choose to be positive, and I know how to make things worse. I'm one drink away or one drug away from it. every day of my life, and I'm not going to go there. So I avoid that today. 17, immoral thinking. Oh, didn't want to bring this one up, Dirk, but I did. Thinking that goes against the principles we follow that help us know the difference between right and wrong. Referring to conduct or thinking of conduct that is contrary to or does not obey or conform to standards of expected and accepted morality. We all know the difference between right and wrong. When we're using, it gets real fuzzy. That's why we suffer incomprehensible demoralization. Absolute behavior that we under normal circumstances would never exude. And I did it. I did it for years. So today, immoral thinking, whether it's the actual act or behavior or thinking of that act or behavior, I have to catch that and smash it. 18, perfectionism, intolerance. Perfectionism and intolerance. A personality trait characterized by a person's strive for flawlessness and setting high performance standards, accompanied by critical self-evaluations and concerns regarding others' evaluations. Intolerance, then, is the lack of open-mindedness, goodwill, patience, or sympathy for the beliefs or practices of others. I believe what I believe, and fuck you. Your thoughts and ideas don't matter. What did I just say to you when I said, I understand or I heard what you said, but I'm going to do it my way because my way is the right way? I said I don't care about your thoughts and I'm not validating them as being worthwhile. And that's a real bad thing to do. That turns people away immediately. Criticize, this is 19 out of 20, we're almost there. Criticizing and gossip. That goes on in all the rooms of recovery. That goes on in everywhere you turn. People can say it, but whether they practice it, that's something I can only practice for myself. So criticizing and gossip. Criticizing or criticism tells us more about the psychology of the critic than the people I'm criticizing. Criticism is also the first of John Gottman's famous four horsemen of the apocalypse, the metaphor depicting the end of times in the New Testament. If you've read that, it's a trip. Gossip is the talk or rumor of a personal, sensational, or limited nature, often groundless talk about others with trivial and chatty bullshit. I'm going to read something out of the back of my book. I actually shared this with my sponsees tonight. This is really cool. This is something that I did not write. This I adopted from my sponsor, and I'll tell you who he adopted it from. And I have it highlighted right there. If I am feeling critical of someone, remember, you never stood in that man's shoes or saw things through his eyes, or stood and watched his heart as it slowly dies. So, help your brother along the way, no matter where he starts, because the same God that made him made me. Wow. That was written, by the way, in 1973 by Elvis Presley. Interesting piece of history. Okay, so there's criticizing and gossip. Here's number 20, and then we're going to pause and go into second half of step 6. My 20th character defect is greed. Anybody relate? A selfish and excessive desire for more of something that is needed, motivated by naked ambition to have more. A very strong wish to have more of everything and anything, and intense and selfish desires. I told you I spent more time on step 6 than I did on step 4 and 5, and there's a reason. We're only halfway done. Being aware of these character defects, again, provides a starting point for me to improve. Rather than have a reaction, I can pause when agitated and I can respond. Knowing these 20 things, and by the way, those are only 20, my list could go on, but those were the big ones for me. Being aware and understanding these character makeups that make up who I am and have for all my life on this earth thus far, it doesn't come easy. It doesn't come overnight, and that's again why I stress personally that it's a situation by situation basis that's going to happen multiple times throughout the course of the day, every single day. So I am able to look at this and try and put these into practice. So when we go back to the book, the one that I choose to follow again, and I don't care what book you follow, and what program you follow, they all work if you work them. They're all, if you put the action in, they'll all work. You know, we look at that. We're entirely ready to have God, of my understanding, remove all these defects of character. Man, I just listed 20 of them, and they're going to be there tomorrow. Is God going to remove them permanently? My God, of my understanding, no. But He will remove my insistence and need to act upon them in the wrong way. And for me, that's understanding that piece being removed. I'm not responsible, and I tell all my sponsees the same thing. I say this out loud in meetings all the time. You are not responsible for your first thought. As an alcoholic and an addict, we're always going to have that first thought. We're going to have the wrong thought pop into our head. It's human nature. But I am responsible for my second thought and my first action. So by being able to think these things through, even though I'm going to have that thought, the way I respond versus react are two entirely different worlds. And that's the difference between making people want to be around me or not want to be around me. And it's made a huge difference in my life today. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, this is the first half of step 6. We'll try and shoot the second half tomorrow and get that up for you so you can play them back to back. And don't worry, step 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, they're all coming. And I really appreciate y'all being here. I hope this does help somebody. If it helps one person ever, then what we're doing here is all worth it. And then I'm achieving something in life that's worthwhile, which I promise you was not the case when I was using and when I was drinking. So thank you again for being here. We love you all, and even if we don't like you, some of you, we still love you. And if you're in recovery, keep doing what you're doing. So like it, dislike it, leave it with a grain of salt. This is the way I work the steps. My sponsor has 47 years of recovery, and I honestly think that he knows a little bit about what he's talking about, and it has made a huge impact on my life today. So thanks so much. We will see you tomorrow.